So, as you heard Aaron say just before the break, car thefts have reached national crisis level in this country. So, Équité Association is a not-for-profit organization that assists in insurance fraud and crime investigations. And they say the situation is grave. What can you do to help prevent your car from being stolen? And what do you do if it does get stolen? Let's speak again with BRYAN GAST, Vice President of the Investigative Services at Équité. Thanks again for your time today, BRYAN.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
So before we kind of get into prevention and then reaction, why is it so bad? Can you paint a picture for us of how we ended up here?
Yeah, organized crime is definitely taking advantage of the supply chain issue that's really developed over the last 2 or 3 years. Very difficult with the global supply chain issue to get used vehicles globally. So these organized crime groups are targeting particular brands, particular models, stealing these vehicles primarily for the purposes of export, especially when it comes to Quebec and Ontario. And those vehicles are being exported, and those are being shipped overseas to the receiving countries that their destination.
I guess my question is, I would have thought, of course I'm completely wrong, that given the fact that cars now are, I guess, equipped right out of the gate with better anti-theft mechanisms, this would have been more difficult to do than ever before. And in fact, it's easier, it seems, to do than ever before. How is that?
Yeah, really, since 2007, 2008, Transport Canada mandated all vehicles manufactured in Canada have to have an anti-theft device on board the vehicle. Criminals have evolved. Technology has evolved for the criminals. Really, any vehicle with a push-button start has vulnerabilities, and the criminals have taken advantage of that. They identify those vulnerabilities, and really, as quick as 15 seconds, vehicles can be stolen. And that's where we're working with the manufacturers, working with the auto industry, and really not one organization is going to be successful. That's why we really collaborate, work together, nationally and internationally for this problem. But definitely, criminals have definitely evolved their methods.
15 seconds. Brian, when you say that, I think, like, what chance does anybody have to try and prevent their vehicle from being stolen?
Yeah, and we really talk about the layered approach, trying to make it more difficult for the criminals to steal your vehicles. Obviously, if you can park in your garage. That's the best case scenario. Unfortunately, not everybody has the ability or has a garage to park in. So park in a well-lit area. If you have two vehicles, park the one that you think might be more susceptible to theft closer to the vehicle and block it in. Using the primary methods are really the onboard diagnostic port, the OBD port. So what the criminals are doing, they're breaking into the vehicle, plugging into that port, and reprogramming a key fob. So there's a port lock that you can get, an OBD port lock that blocks that capability of plugging in. Relay attacks is another one where really protecting your radio frequency. If your key fobs are on your person or in your house, make sure that they're in a Faraday pouch or something that blocks that radio frequency from emitting, and that does a good job at preventing the relay attacks.
Would it also be at the same time, if you don't have that Faraday pouch, and we've mentioned this before, if you kept your keys as far away from the front door from where that car was parked, would that work at all?
Yeah, technology continues to advance with the range. So really, but it doesn't need to be, I mean, you don't have to spend money on the Faraday pouch. If you use a metal container, something that limits that range, that's also successful as well. So it's just really, the worst case scenario is when you hang them or leave them at the front door, just inside your front door.
Yeah.
That makes it extremely easy. So
exactly.
I mean, you're right. The further away, the better. But putting them in some sort of a container helps diminish that range.
Also, I read in the States, and I should point out I also sort of noticed this is not the case in Canada, but I know in the States, Hyundai and Kia were both sanctioned by the government there for not having to include some kind of I don't know what it's called, but an anti-theft device. But those same cars in Canada are not facing that problem, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So where Canada made it mandatory to have these anti-theft devices on board, albeit they're now outdated and need to be looked at to be updated, we still have those standards. Where in the United States, it was an optional, and not all states did it. So you're starting to see the difference between having a standard and not having a standard.
Okay.
So just we're out of time here, Brian, but quickly, if you could tell us what's the first thing you do if your car has been stolen? I guess you call police, then what?
Yeah, absolutely. Call police. Never take matters in your own hands. If you have a tracking device, let the police know. Don't do the tracking yourself. Never put yourself in harm's way. If you have video from your front door, notify the police that you do have video, and hopefully your information will lead to the return of your vehicle or to the group that's responsible for these thefts.
All right.
And notify your insurance company as well.
Yeah, police first, insurance company second. Brian, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.